Here we go. 3, 2, 1. This is not the smartest guys in the room. Craft stories, not ads. I see Tom here. How are you doing today, Tom?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. You sound good. Let's see here. Talk again. Let me hear you again.
Should sound better now. It changed.
Okay.
For some weird reason, I swear the Club Deck software interface has a weird habit of defaulting to different settings every time you open it. And so like I opened it, I changed the audio settings, and then when I came into the room, it changed them again on me, and I just had to reset them. Really strange.
I feel like that happens every time I get on, to do a podcast with somebody, wherever, like it could be let's say it's Restream or StreamYard or something like that. I feel like the microphone is always different. And so sometimes I'm talking to my computer and not on like a headset or something like that. One of these days, Tom, I am going to buy a microphone. And John, Jay, and Chris, I have to tell you, I was doing a podcast the other day with my friend Jeff Forrester, and he said he sees our reels sometimes, and he says Tom looks better than you in the reels, and I was just heartbroken. And I'm like, well, that's because Tom does that for a living. He has a whole setup behind him, and it hurt my feelings. So, well, I have a different camera over here. I'm going to start trying to figure out how to use someday, rather than this camera that isn't attached to the computer either. But I'm going to figure that out.
Yeah, well, and it's the equipment that I have, and also the 2+ decades of experience using it that plays into it a little bit. I mean, you could hand all the equipment that I use to somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience, and I guarantee you they're not going to turn out with a good result. You know, like it's the tool, but it's also the hand it's in.
Understood. I like that. It's the tool, but the hand it's in. All right, not the sports guys in the room. We are talking about crafting stories over ads. That's what we came up with today, rather than just blab, blab, blab and tell people. I'm guessing, Tom, when you came up with this idea, it was your idea, that you feel that some people might blab, blab, blab about their product or how great their widget is. My wife doesn't like when I talk about widgets. How great their widget or whatever is, rather than telling how it connects with the people or how your life will be better because of it. You want to explain what your thoughts are?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this really all kind of comes down to one of the places where I think businesses and organizations run astray or kind of get wrong the way they should be communicating with the community that they want to serve. And that is to say that often, and I think we all have experienced this, and if you think about the interactions you have, particularly online and in digital media with businesses and organizations, you often feel like they're basically all they're doing is pitching you, right? We make the best widgets, right? Let's keep running with the widgets. I would just say, Liz, get your mind out of the gutter if you don't like widgets. You know, they say we've got the best widgets. We've got the best prices for our widgets. We make more widgets than anybody else. We sell more widgets than anybody else. And what they miss in all those communications is the fact that the people they're talking to, their audience, don't care about their widgets as much as they care about their widgets, right? Nobody loves your baby as much as you love your baby, right? And so what you end up with is them completely missing the boat, right? Missing the plot on how they should be communicating with their audience. And instead of communicating them into the way communicating with them in a way, wow, I completely stumbled all over that. Instead of communicating with them in a way that actually makes sense to them, that gives them the opportunity to care more deeply or to better understand why this business or organization does what they do. Instead of doing that, instead of communicating with them as people, they treat them like ATMs, right? That they just want cash out of, and nobody likes it, right? So I think a lot of businesses really miss the plot when it comes to how they communicate with their audiences. They pitch, they create ads, they try to use content to sell, which is not really how communications is supposed to work, but they try to use content to sell, rather than using content to build relationships, to sow the seeds of relationships, that they can then nurture into customer relationships, client relationships, or advocacy relationships down the line. And so I think in order to do that, the first thing you have to do is stop focusing on making ads, stop focusing on trying to use your content to sell, and instead use your content to tell stories that give your audience the opportunity to begin to care about what you do and why you do it, to sow the seeds of those relationships that will bear fruit over time. So I think that that's kind of where my thinking is at with this, and I distilled all of that down into as short a phrase as I possibly could, which was craft stories, not ads, because I think fundamentally we should be focusing more on telling stories and creating connection points with our audiences rather than just trying to get money out of their pockets. And that's what I think.
Okay, well said, and that gets us off to a good start, Tom. So, I was talking to John, our friend Sonia Chand, and Tom, you might have met her before. I was talking to her the other day, and we're working on her book, Dropped in the Maze, and she talks a lot about neurodivergency, being on the spectrum. But one of the things when her and I were talking the other day, like not everybody will understand that aspect of the book, but we got into the idea of being alone, being different, being like, and so she starts to tell a story about like when she was a little kid feeling alone. Well, I would think everybody could understand that, like, because we've all felt alone. We've all felt like we didn't fit in. We've all felt. So we started talking about these human experience ideas, concepts, right? What are these? Whether it could be like a relationship between mother and father, father and son, getting your first job, these human experiences that we could all connect with, like these, like in some of these commercials, Tom, where they'll show Christmas with grandfather, or looking out the window and seeing the snow and the excitement on Christmas morning, telling these stories that we can all identify with because we're connecting with this human experience. So I love the concept. Hey, what's up, everybody? Beth, John, Chris, Carrie, Trisha. All right, we are going to go to Beth. What do you think about crafting stories over ads? Or are we just going to, or do we just want to pitch, Beth? Is a straight pitch better and Tom's off his rocker? What do you got for us?
Oh, yeah, this is a great topic. I'm glad you guys brought this up. Good morning, everyone.
Hey there.
Because I just left a room on Clubhouse where they were talking about the storms here in Florida and how they're going to get these jobs with companies, right? That go around and tell you you need a new roof. And their pitch to me wasn't very good. Two, I said it's illegal. You can't go into non-soliciting communities. You got that. You just walk by and say, hey, just in the neighborhood to the house down the street a couple weeks ago, here's my card. Yeah, I think you have to know your product well enough to be able to sell it without being a salesy person, if I may say that. And I've been in sales my entire life, and I can do it all day long. But I also can wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, sleepless, and end up buying a Shark vacuum because they're showing me how well it works. So I think it just really, Dom, it depends on where you're at in the day and what you're willing to do. But yeah, no, great topic. Good
So
morning.
Thank you, Beth. So you're in real estate, right? That's what you do by day?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So when a couple is getting like a young couple goes into a house for the first time, you're showing a house. Is that part of your job in real estate?
Yeah, used to be. I
Okay.
don't show too many houses, but yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So I'm just wondering if I was in real estate, you might say, imagine Christmas dinner here. Where would you put your tree? Is that imagery part of a walk around the house? And typically,
It could be, Dom. It depends on what I feel as soon as I start to get to know the people. There's other times, I'm going to be quite honest, I stop at 7-Eleven, buy Starburst, and I stand back and just keep my mouth shut because I'm looking at the place and I'm like, this is like a crap hole. I would never buy this. I would not invest in this. But I allow them to just go around and do their thing. And they're like, yeah, this is wonderful. Okay, well, somebody else's ruby is not the other person's diamond. I don't know how else to say it. I just keep my mouth shut.
fair enough. So you mentioned Starburst. I see. Okay, so just a sidebar. It's almost Halloween. I'm going to ask. Put it in the comments if you're listening on. If you're listening on Instagram or where we at, Tom? LinkedIn, Twitch. Where else we at?
We're I like how you led with the place we're not,
Sorry,
right?
man.
Because it's
Well,
really it's really difficult to live stream to Instagram from outside of the Instagram app. So it's something I'm working on. I would love to be on Instagram as well. But it's a challenge. But all of that said, we are live streaming across the internet. So obviously the discussion is hosted on Clubhouse, but we are live streaming on LinkedIn, Twitter. No, actually not Twitter anymore. I take it back. Jesus, now I can't even get it right. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitch. That's where we're streaming. Yeah. So if you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitter, LinkedIn, if you're on Twitch, if you're on Facebook, feel free to jump in the comments. I think, Dom, you were going to ask what people's favorite Halloween candy is. Is that where you were going with that, bud?
do you know how simple I am? I set out each day. Dom has simple share inspiration, positivity, smiles. So back it up. Now I'm thinking about this. It's almost Halloween. Beth mentioned Starburst. I like a good Starburst. What is the best Halloween candy? You can go straight candy, you can go chocolate. I don't care. Uh, Chris, he's up on the stage now, but he says, say candy corn and I'm out. So put it in the comments, ask. I'm going around the room. Then we'll get back to our subject here. So John J, best Halloween candy. John will be like, I only eat apples. John, what is it?
Best Halloween candy, bar none, not even close, is Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, followed closely by Twix, and then Hershey's chocolate bars.
Okay, you got a good list. John, what do you think about all these Reese's cups now with like pretzels in them or potato chips in them? Is that weird?
Well, the potatoes and pretzels are not my thing. However, I did hear a commercial for that like chocolate lava explosion in the middle, and they painted the picture in their description, and I'm like, I got to try this. I have got to try it. I'm going to buy it because they told the story, and they painted the picture of the experience. I know what Reese's does, but man, they got my full on attention when it comes to that. So I'm running the store later on today.
Hey, okay, good. I will say the picture of this one, that lava, Reese's cups, we love them. They're going to be top. They're going to be top picks here. But that picture on the front of the Reese's cup with the chocolate lava is the worst picture ever, John. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I never saw the picture of it, Dom. So I went to someone talking about it on the radio. I'm like, I gotta go try this because this goes to what Tom and you talked about. They told the story about it first, and that's what got my attention.
Okay, somebody Google the picture right now of that Reese's with the chocolate lava, and the picture on the Reese's is very bizarre. Okay, Chris, what's your favorite candy? What's the best Halloween candy? Go. This guy. Come on, Chris. He said no candy corn, but he doesn't have an answer. What do you
Now,
got, Chris?
now he's got to figure out how to unmute himself.
Yeah, what a jerk.
He's a bit of a Luddite.
All right. We'll come back to Chris, and you said we're allowed to bust his chops. So, Trisha, best Halloween candy. What do you got?
Very basic. I'm the Hershey bar girl. That's it. Chocolate all the way.
It's very simple. It's great every time. I get a lot of them. Dr. Tachi, best Halloween candy. What do you got?
Okay, back when I used to, for real, eat that type of candy, I used to like the Snickers bars, the small ones.
Yeah, and they can get you through a day. They like power you up. Okay. Brian Alves, what do you got? Nice to see you, brother. What do you got? Best Halloween candy.
Hey, nice to see you too. Hands down, Dum Dums.
Dum Dums.
Come on, love
like
Dum
the
Dums.
lollipop. Is that what
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're small. You know, you take the wrapper off and you're done with it. Then you go on to the next one. Blueberry Dum Dums specifically.
I was
are
going to
my
say,
favorite.
what's the flavor? Blueberry. I don't know if I
Oh,
ever
yeah.
had a blueberry. Okay, Tom, what do you
I was gonna
got?
say I gotta vote for the root beer Dum Dums if I'm gonna
root beer Dum Dum. That's pretty good.
Dums.
And a Dum Dum is still cheap, right? You can like get them affordably.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay, Beth, best candy. You didn't tell us yet.
Oh, I use the Starburst because they're very hard to chew and you can keep your mouth shut. And I just stand and chew on those. But if I had to, I love Dum Dums. And you need to try the pina colada Dum Dums. Those are amazing. And yeah, one, I can't do too much chocolate here. My house faces west, so the sun falls this direction. And so I can't do chocolate. And we typically do, yes, like what are those things called? They're like little hard candies, sprees. I think that's what they're called. Yeah, those are pretty good. Takes kids a little time to eat, and those gobstoppers or whatever. I just listen to the neighbor kids, Dom. I don't even pay attention no more. They give me the list and I go buy.
I'm gonna reclaim my time here, Dom, because I said if we were talking about Dum Dums, I was gonna vote for root beer Dum Dums, and then you went right past me, and I didn't actually get to say any of my favorite candies.
Oh, I thought you were going root beer Dum Dum.
No, I said if we're voting for Dum Dums.
All right, go on, Tom. Don't be. Tom got his feelings hurt because we skipped right over him. Go on, Tom.
Well, yeah.
I want to tell everybody before we get on, Tom, this morning before we get on the air, like the thing set up and we come like about to do it, and I heard like Tom going up and down the stairs like 20 times, and I swear he was like from walking up the stairs. He says he wasn't breathing heavy. I think he was breathing heavy. So go on, Tom. Try to defend yourself.
I mean, whether or not I was. First of all, I don't think I was breathing heavy. But second of all, even if I was, I could still run circles around you, man. So, I mean, what you got? Like, what you got? What you got?
Pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay.
But favorite candies, I think John J. Wiley was right when he said Twix. I do like Reese's peanut butter cups, but I got to argue that this is not a plug necessarily, but the Trader Joe's has their own version of peanut butter cups, and your buddy's dark chocolate peanut butter cups too. I think the dark chocolate ones are so good, right? But yeah, I would say Halloween candy that you're likely to get in your trick or treat bag, Twix all the way. That's the one.
I don't like a Twix at all. I don't like that commercial where they're like Twix are two different sides. Are they really two different sides? Is there a right Twix and a left Twix, or is that just BS?
I mean, no, they're the same. It's just they're just joking around with it.
It's not funny.
It's a play on words.
I'm
identical. That's kind of the whole joke.
I'm over it. I like Sour Patch Kids. I like a lot of basic chocolate. My son's a type 1 diabetic, so at like 3 years old, he's 18 now, but at 3, there became no more junk in the house for like years and years and years. So if I could go out and get like a candy bar or a donut or Sour Patch Kids, I was always like jamming them in real fast, and like my kids would find like candy bar wrappers in my car. Like,
Is there like glove box stuffed full of wrappers?
yeah, or like I'd walk in the house through the garage and like dump them off real quick on the way, and they'd be like, when did we have like chocolate bars? I don't know.
We didn't have them. I had them.
All right, let's get serious here. We got more important stuff to do. Crafting stories over ads. Crafting, because it is an art. Story is an art. So John Jay, I know this about John. John is stories first. No BS, stories first. So John, tell us what that means to you. Stories over ads.
Well, here's an analogy I used in a couple of favors rooms the other day. So think of this in fishing. When you are fishing, there's two strategies for trolling. One is you move around till you find the fish you're looking for, which a lot of people do with ads or being an expert or not stop talking. And the other one is chumming, where you put out bait and attract the fish you're looking for to come to you. I chum, and I use stories to get people's attention and to draw them in and to follow the guest and follow me. And then throughout the show, we have ads. We have spots that we put in for if they really are interested in a person's story, they will reach out and follow them. So yeah, we do a promotion, but it's about the story first and foremost. Otherwise, it's just an infomercial. And infomercials are great, but there's a reason why they're on late at night. It's because their ratings killers.
Right on, John. Infomercial. Except that guy with the My Pillow and all that stuff, or the Flex Seal, man. I used to watch
Those are commercials.
Yeah.
They're paid commercials. Yeah, that's the difference. A lot of people. By the way, Dominic, Tom, everybody, just draw this conclusion in your mind. If you have someone who will never shut up and all they do is talk and talk about themselves, what do? You eventually move on, don't you?
Yeah. Mute, move on. Okay, this isn't a pitch. Yes, 100%. Yeah, it does get annoying. And some people just not know. Do some people not know that's, I think some people look for ROI so quickly. They're like, oh, I got to get on. I needed to make a sell on Clubhouse today. I needed to make a sell on LinkedIn. I'm going to talk about myself, pitch. And if I didn't get a sell, it didn't work out. I'm never going to do that again. How many people, John, like how many, and everybody in this room has been on Clubhouse for like years now. How many people do you know where you're like, Clubhouse is pretty cool, you should get on it? And then they were on it for like a week and they're like, I didn't see a return. I'm like, what the F were you thinking you were going to see what were you trying to see in a week? I mean, who else? I would guess like that's common for everybody. So yeah, go on. Tom, go on, John.
Yeah, I would just say this: those people that are looking for quick returns, you might as well play the lottery. You got a better chance to put it that way.
Yeah, that's a good one. People always had like, same with being an author. Like some people, like as a publisher of books, like, well, if you want to get rich, like let's say my son is 18 and talks about being rich. Okay, well, go to Wall Street because that's probably the fastest place you're going to get rich. Study, learn about NVIDIA, go to Wall Street and trade. But if you're looking to help people, to make a difference, to connect, or then there's probably a lot of better places. And same with like being an author. If you want to help people, that's a great place to be. Share your message, share your story, help one person at a time. Perfect. If you're saying I want to be rich, well, play the lottery, like John says, go work on Wall Street. There's other ways to do that are probably faster. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I think John hit, on something there really well, and you were talking about it too, Dom. That kind of like that fast ROI thing, right? Like, so we've been strongly conditioned, right, by sort of business leaders over the last 40 years or so to look at business as a straightforward numbers game, right? How many people do I have to reach out? I mean, for anybody that's ever done a sales training, right, at any point in their life, and I actually haven't. I've never been trained as a salesperson, but I've seen pieces of these programs and curriculums. But I'm sure, Dom, you're going to nod to this because you probably went through this at some point in your sales background where you went through a training and they said, if you reach out to X number of people per day If you dial X number of phone numbers, if you send X number of emails, then by the law of averages, like that will work out to ultimately you can expect to convert X number of percentage and you'll end up with, you know, Y revenue at the end of the day, right? Or Y revenue at the end of the month or the week. And you'll be able to hit your sales goals if you just dial that many numbers, right? And so instead of focusing on building good relationships, instead of focusing on actually creating sustainable long-term growth, it's a churn, right? It's run through them as fast as you can. It's, to go back to John's fishing analogy, if you put enough hooks in the water, you will catch something, right? It may not be a lot of things. It may not even really be what you want, but you're going to catch something. The problem is that over time, you end up overfishing and you end up running out of things to catch, right? You churn through that customer base, you turn people off with those kind of tactics, and over time, you start running out of people that you can convert, right? Because you haven't built sustainable business over time. You haven't built good relationships with people over time. And that's why this whole myth of constant growth is exactly that. It's a myth, right? How often do you see businesses I was actually on a conversation with somebody recently who was talking about the company they work for seeks to grow by 7% every year. That's their growth rate number. And we both acknowledged in that call that that's unreasonable over the long term. You can't grow by 7% every year infinitely. It doesn't make sense. At some point, the market becomes saturated and you run out of room for growth, right? So then what happens if you don't have new people to bring on to continue to grow and your churn rate is really high and you don't have good customer retention? Then where do you end up, right? Not only do you stop growing, but that growth goes upside down and you start contracting because you're losing more than you're bringing in, right? So really crafting stories, again, is about building those relationships rather than just churning over and over again and churning through that customer base and churning through that audience, trying to extract everything you can out of them before moving on to the next. Right. So that's what I think. I don't know, Chris, we're going to come back to you, buddy. Try to give you a chance to see if you figured out how to unmute yourself yet. If you want to weigh in on telling stories versus crafting ads. What do you got for us, bud?
Well, first of all, Dom, how are you today?
Good, brother. Do I look like an owl today? That's Chris is the one that said I stare into the camera like a owl, and then he sent Tom a picture of an owl with big eyes, and then we had a whole conversation one day about should we look at a green dot, the screen, what should we be looking at? So, what do you got, Chris? Bring it on, man.
I actually appreciate this, and I was thinking about last night. I'm trying to rebuild after a semi-cancellation, but I'm also really stuck because what I did before COVID was work with individual people on individual things. Tom was there. We tried to do a couple things together, and he saw that the story is a story that the people can't see. So their dog is doing something, and they're coming from a different place. They don't realize that the dog's movement is the story. So when I'm trying to, I guess, advertise or market, I am constantly trying to show people what they can't see. When they see it, they love it. But it's a very hard thing to find out which story you're trying to tell in the dog world, because most people want it to be about the person, and it really isn't. So I'm working with this girl who's vision impaired, and she's just awesome because her life depends on the dog. So she's very serious. She's got it. She's awesome. It's a great story, but in that story is the story that she's vision impaired, and in that story is the movement of the dog. I don't know how to get all of that, I guess, out there and let people realize that the story is between you and the dog.
I mean, I would say, Chris, I think this is a great question. I thank you for asking it because it's I think it's really instructive and maybe helpful for everybody else listening to hear, somebody trying to tell stories, right, rather than craft ads, trying to go about it the right way, and running into some difficulty because it's challenging to do. My suggestion would be, is rather than looking at the story as a whole, try to pick pieces out, that you can explain easily, and explain them sort of one at a time, and think about it kind of that idea of like, rather than trying to climb the whole mountain in one step, right? Take one step at a time and tell pieces of the story, describe one interaction, tell one little story. And then the other thing I would say is just make sure that each little story you tell, even if it's just in the course of 60 seconds or 90 seconds or a couple of minutes, each little story that you tell, make sure that it follows a basic structure, right? That there is sort of an introduction, a setting up of the difficulty or the problem, a resolution to that problem, and then conclusions at the end of it, right? And if you follow just kind of that little basic story structure, it'll feel like a journey to your audience and one that they'll be able to follow. But I would say just chip away at it, right? Just take little bites, right? Small bites one at a time, and chip away at kind of, don't try to paint the whole picture at once, paint little pieces of it, right? And then ultimately you'll be able to kind of tie them together, and the audience will be able to tie them together, and they'll see the whole problem, the whole story, eventually over time. But don't try to paint the whole picture at once, would be my advice.
Tom, I think that's great advice for Chris. And Chris, beginning, middle, end. For me, if I was doing a minute video, 30-second, beginning, middle, end, what's the win? There has to be a win. There has to be a takeaway. So what was problem, solution, win? I'm going, setup, solution, win. There has to be happiness, success at the end. And then later on, if you, like every story we tell, like who you are as a person, as you develop as a storyteller, you should be able to tell that story in 30 seconds, a minute, or an hour and a half. Yeah, right. Well, how the hell am I going to tell the story in an hour and a half? Well, it would be developed. There would be offshoots to that story and things like that. But for this case, what Tom's saying, little short video, I agree 100%. Go on, Chris.
No, I appreciate it. It's a hard sell, just because, like, when I don't know how to say it. Like, a lot of people think their dog is protecting them, and so they're under that. They think the dog's being protective, but the dog is actually just terrified. And then I'll step in, and the dog will kind of go away from me because it was telling them to protect them. Now, to shatter that person's, Lassie movie mentality, because they have a fear aggressive dog that they think is protecting them, is a tough story to sell, because you look like kind of a jerk, and they really need the help right now because the dog is biting everybody. But when you try to sell or change the story, it's not even change the story, but show them a different story that the public is, telling you something different about, meaning like, he believes that the dog is being protective, and the dog is 100% not being protective. And when you prove that instantly, that's a great story if you're looking for the same outcome. But what I find is most people with dogs aren't looking for the same outcome. They're looking to be validated. So it's tough, but I get what you're saying about, make your point beginning, middle, end. Tom's been standing on my throat, kicking me in the head for years, trying to get that through my head.
Well, and I think I'll just say this last thing, Chris, to put a little bit of a period on this, and then we'll move on, I think. But here's what I would say is, rather than focusing on the outcome that they're going to be disillusioned, or they're going to have their sort of their perception of their relationship with their dog shattered, ultimately the outcome is they're going to have a better relationship with their dog. Right. So when they come in and they say, I love my dog, I just want this to be better, or we need to fix this, I think the thing to focus on with them is, I'm going to, through working with you and your dog, dramatically improve your relationship with your dog. You think you love your dog now. You think your dog is attached. You think you have a good relationship with your dog now. You don't even know what a good relationship is. Your relationship is going to be a million times better when you really understand what's going on. And that's what I can help you do. That's what I can give you, is the best relationship you've ever had with a dog in your life. That's what I can give you. But it's not going to be easy to get there, right? And there's going to be pain points along the way. So if what you want is the best relationship you've ever had with a dog, I'm your guy. But if you're not willing to do the work, I can't help you. Right. But I think that's the story you should be telling, is I can give you the best relationship you've ever had in your life with a dog. I can show you how to get there, but you got to trust me and you got to do the work. So that's how I would kind of position it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's like men, or what is it? Dogs are from Mars and handlers are from Venus, kind of thing. Like, really, it's almost like counseling a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I think every dog owner wants to have a good relationship with their dog, and if you can tell them that you can give them a better relationship with their dog than they can even imagine, I think that's the story to tell, right? Is how amazing relationships are.
Everybody's telling that story in a different way, but I think it's the difference in how I tell that story that's going to be important. So I thank you very much, Dominic. How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Jeez, I have no idea. Is this a joke or are you just asking me? I'd say 30 licks, 50 licks.
There's an answer, Dom.
I don't believe that.
There is. It's 3.
Remember that old commercial with the owl in the tree?
Yeah, I remember it, but I don't know the answer. All right, that's smart, guys. It's how many?
3.
Okay.
Because after the third one, he bites it.
All right.
In the commercial. So it's 3.
And he's an owl.
Wah, wah, wah. All right. It's crafting stories over ads. Gotcha. Okay, let's see here. Trisha, what's going on? What do you think, Trisha? Is that important to your business model, crafting stories, or are you just out there making as many ads as you can? What do you got going on?
No. I think it's really important. I think it's crafting stories, how you craft your story to build a relationship with your target audience. And when you do that, at the same time, you're trying to figure out how your story is solving your audience problems. You're building the relationship and at the same time figuring how you're solving their problems with your story. I think that's the most important way to go.
There you go. Because it's not about you. So how, to your point, how does your story help them?
Yeah. Absolutely correct. You're building the relationship so that you have long-term growth with them, and at the same time trying to figure out how your story is going to solve their problem.
Exactly, Trisha. It's not about you. It's about them. Audience first. Always.
And I think on that same note, and nobody wants to hear they're wrong either. So people could be doing the opposite of what they're supposed to do. How do you say that in an articulate way that doesn't offend people? I mean, like, I hate to do it, but if you're trying to get votes, the best thing to do would not be tell people that they're idiots. What you're doing now is idiots. Maybe say, this is what you should do. Or,
Right. No, you're not telling them they're wrong, but you're telling them this is how I came through it. This is how it worked for me, but you're not wrong, but I can tell you how I overcame it.
Yeah. Different set of circumstances. We all come to something from a different experience. So go the human experience. Okay, let's see. No, I'm not going political. Dr. Tachi, what do you got going? I saw Chris said, oh boy. Dr. Tachi, telling stories, does it matter to you? Is it important? Do you ever work with people that are like, nope, I don't want to tell a story. I just want you. This is boring. Just pitch them. I would think that probably happens. Go on.
Telling stories is critically important. And good morning, by the way. Absolutely, absolutely. I employ storytelling in everything I do, and I always tell people that it's important to tell the story because people care about the story behind things. People care about a story on the journey to possibly becoming a client or buying, if that's what's happening. So it definitely does have to be about the story, keeping in mind that there's another goal too if you're trying to sell something. So I have a really good example of somebody, a company that I think does fantastic storytelling. Do you all know who Alexis Batar is? If you don't, Alexis Batar is a jewelry and accessories company based in New York City, and they have this whole campaign that has been going, that they won a Webby for, by the way, last year, and it's all, or earlier this year, I can't remember, but it's all about around a set of characters that, and New York is like the secondary character in this. So it's around a set of characters. Margot is the main one, and her assistant Jules, who is not Jules, her name is really Hazel, but she just calls everybody Jules. So it's gone through this whole journey of me around this character, and Margot's an impossible character to work with, and I think everybody knows that one person that is impossible to work with, but people just kind of put up with her because of who she is, and she's a New York socialite, and it's hilarious. It's so well done. And then if you look at the comments section on Instagram, it's all sorts of things that, like, yay, Margot, we're so glad you're okay, that type of thing. And one time I put, Margot got hit by a bus, right? It was a whole thing of somebody trying to off Margot, and she got pushed in front of the bus, and it was like, who killed JR type thing. That was the whole thing. And so I put in the comments, I was like, those earrings are to die for. But then I said, oh yeah, and get well soon, Margot. So the social media person saw that, and of course responded to me, and then said, hey, we noticed you like the earrings. Here is 20% off. I said, you see, that's the way you tell a story, and you're drawn in. And not only are you telling the story, but you're paying attention to the people responding to your story. So I just wanted to put that out there in terms of an excellent example. If you look up on Instagram, Alexis Batar, you'll be able to see some of this mini series that they've put together. And I'm complete.
Dr. Tachi, what is spin on the question? So not only do you tell the story, but how to interact with the people that respond to the story. That's a whole new level. You just blew my mind here. You have any tips to responding to people after you've told the story?
I would say, I don't know that I have a particular tip, but just pay attention to what they're saying and respond in kind. Respond with what, of course, there are going to be responses that you don't like, and it's up to you. If you cannot respond in a constructive way, I would say don't respond, because that just starts a whole bunch of nonsense, right? But if it's something that's somebody responding to your story, and it's something that is that you can respond to positively, definitely respond to what they said. So if they said, like I said, I love those earrings, and the response was to those earrings, maybe it's something else for them to consider as well. So I would say a good dialogue, and this is obviously for anything, but in particular social media, having a good dialogue is also what the algorithms look for. They look for that engagement. So I'm not trying to make it about trying to get views, etc., on social media, but the outcome is also, because you've had dialogue and you are interacting and there's interaction in the comments, that's something that the algorithm will pick up, that, okay, there's good interaction going on here. So I don't know if that's an answer to your question, but I would just say respond in kind. Pay attention to what they're saying and respond to specifically what they're talking about.
Okay, that's fair, Dr. Tachi. I want to go, just John, if you're around here, I just want to ask you one question, because I know that you teach and coach about Facebook and things like that. How important is that responding back to comments? Because on some hands you got the haters, but you're looking at interaction as well. So what do you do in that case?
Well, I would say that I very rarely ever ever respond to posts, and my engagement is sky high. We had a reach of 5.5 million in 28 days. The trolls, the negative comments, usually people that are fans and avid consumers of content will address them. Very rarely, I'd say once a week. Sometimes I'll put a thumbs up in the comment. Sometimes I'll say amen or something like that, but it's very short. It's very rare I ever say anything. And here's the reason why. Dr. Chachi kind of hit on it. It's like I have an agenda of things I want to get done. I'm not going to get sidetracked by someone else's agenda. So here's what I found. Reach is more important what they think, is less important of what I think. That goes to the pitching about you all the time. I encourage them to comment, and that creates engagement. And I put pieces that create more engagement than others, and let it go. I just don't have time to respond to everybody.
Got it, brother. I was wondering if you thought as does it hurt the analytics, or is the engagement a one-way engagement? Because if the
I don't
engagement
think it hurts the analytics to say something back. It's more psychological and it's more time management. So again, if I use a negative comment, and Dr. Touch made a great point. If someone says something negative, I either do one of two things: I hide the comments, they don't see it, or I block them. And I don't address them at all because that's what they want. My job is to get increased reach of what I want to do, and use that chumming thing. I'm not going to catch the fish I want by going after what Joe Blow has to say, and that's positive and or negative. It's really I don't have time to do that, so I don't do it very well. I don't do it often. Some do, and they get great success for it. I found for me, it's just not necessary. But then again, I'm posting pretty much from 6 a.m. till midnight, 7 days a week, once every 50 minutes. So I don't have time.
Thanks, John. Thanks. Yeah, and I think too, like, to Dr. Tachi's point, what she was talking about with that campaign, obviously they put a lot of money into that campaign. They have somebody who's dedicated to monitoring and replying to and responding to engagement on that Instagram account. So if you're in a position where you have that support team, I would suggest that engaging with comments is a really good way to drive up overall community engagement, really have people feel like you are interested in what they think or feel or have to say. And my advice there would be, whatever you do, always keep it positive. Right. So there's going to be trolls. There's going to be people trying to drag things down and get negative in the comments. I think whatever you do, just always keep it positive. And from a business perspective, if you're going to engage with comments and things like that, just keep it positive, and you'll do well. You'll see good results from it. If you are positive, you'll see positive results from it. How about that? Anyway, looking at the clock, it's time for show and tell. I don't know about you guys, but I'm curious to see what Dom has for us this week.
Okay, today I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to show you something that you will see around my house, and especially in my basement. I have some on display. But when I was little, I was the weirdest looking kid. I looked like E.T. So I said the other day my favorite Halloween costume was E.T. That's how I looked. I had big teeth that stuck out of my mouth, big belly, weird looking kid. So my dad taught me early on how to twist people's arms behind their backs, how to fight. His family had fought and stuff like that. So in my house, you will see a lot of boxing gloves. And I turned, when my son was little, we did the same thing and tried to show him. I took a more diplomatic approach than my dad. And I thought, first, you should turn your cheek. If Jesus did it, I think we could probably teach my kid to do it. So turn the cheek, warn the person, and then fight like hell. So you will see around the house many boxing gloves. As my son grew up, we would box in the basement. And then sometimes he'd really hit me in the face. And when he was mad at me, he'd be unloading on me. And then as he got bigger, he went into boxing class and jujitsu class. And now he's out in Philadelphia, the kids out there, he's twisting their arms behind their backs, just to show them jujitsu, and now they think he's all tough and stuff. And I think he's like now he walks around Philadelphia like he's Dirty Harry or something. He thinks he's so tough because he learned how to fight. Then he like took all the classes, and now the kids want to see jiu-jitsu and stuff like that from him. So I have to calm him down. My wife thinks that I have him thinking he's like invincible out there. So but I am glad that he has that confidence. My dad, even when I was little and dopey, gave me that confidence. I tried to instill it in my son. Now he's taking it to a whole new level. So these boxing gloves that you see around my house, this is an Everlast one. This is my show and tell for today. So there's what you got, Tom.
Well, and you've got some signed gloves kicking around too, right? I mean, you're a big boxing fan. You got the Muhammad Ali framed picture over your shoulder there. So and I know you're a big boxing fan from conversations that we've had. So I think that's cool that you were able to take something a sport that you're a fan of, right, and create opportunity for you had opportunity to participate in it when you were younger, create opportunity for your son to participate in it. But yeah, I think it's always important, like you said, to try to avoid the fight at all costs first, right? Fighting is not the best way to resolve disputes, but knowing how to defend yourself is always a good thing, right? Being able to defend yourself is always a good thing, because not everybody subscribes to the idea that violence is not the answer. So I think that's good. I think everybody growing up should have the ability and the confidence to be able to defend themselves. I think that's an important thing too. That often is overlooked, is that confidence is a big part of not cockiness, not being overconfident, but confidence in yourself and your ability to stand up to others is a big part of kind of resisting bullying, right? And yeah, I think that's a good skill set for every kid to have growing up. Something I'm definitely going to do my best to imbue in my daughter as she gets older, is the confidence in herself, and in her and the self-possession to be able to stand up to people when inevitably she faces a bully at some point in her life, because she will. Everybody does, right? We all did. And if you haven't ever faced a bully, then I got a newsflash for you. You were the bully. But yeah, everybody else has faced a bully. And so yeah, it's good to have the self-possession to be able to stand up. And then and I think being quick-witted and learning how to take a bully down with words is the best way to do it first. But then being able to defend yourself is always a good thing. So I'm with you, Dom. I like it. Although not a big boxing fan myself. But and not that I don't like boxing. I wouldn't call myself a fan. But also not a fan of MMA. I just kind of don't get it. Like it's a little bit lost on me, just being honest. But I think it's a good thing to have around. So I like it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and what I would do for kids if I was trying to get them into fighting and things like that, I would just make the headgear bigger so they didn't actually get hit and bloody noses and stuff. Make the headgear 3 times the size. Okay, not the smartest guys in the room, crafting stories over ads. So, Tom, as you get ready for the wrap up, what do you think? Should we get one more tip from everybody, or you want to rock a wrap up?
Let's do a quick run around the room. Just one sentence, one quick little word of advice from everybody before we wrap it up, and then I've got a little story to tell for the wrap up.
Dr. Chachi says if you made the headgear bigger, they would look like a dum-dum. That is true. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go quick tip, storytelling tip. We'll go John Jay. What do you got for us?
What I would say is start your entire conversation with the most engageable content that's going to get the most reaction from people. And remember, don't try to sell everyone. Just try to get their attention with your story. And then you can sell them, because you can't sell anything on the platform that you're on.
Good stuff, John. Dr. Tachi. Storytelling tip.
Are you all hearing something, or is it just me?
It's probably my dog. I hear it barking upstairs. Go on.
No, I'm hearing. Anyway, it may be me. So I'm sorry. You said a tip.
That's right. Not about dum-dums. A storytelling tip. Something you got.
Basically what you said, beginning, middle, and end. Start the story at the beginning, have a progression of whatever that story is. Tell it to the middle, the high point, and then end it. So the same way you enjoy television shows or movies that have a beginning, middle, and end, and it's disconcerting if it starts or ends at a strange place. I think
Chris, what do you got?
I'm just learning from you guys and grateful in the room. Thank you to everybody. And Tom, if you're worried about your daughter, drop her off with Dr. Tachi for a little while. She'll straighten that out. No one's going to mess with her then.
That's right. You got it. Trisha, storytelling tip.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like Dr. Tachi, use like a narrative arc where you're gonna build up to something so that you draw people in, and then bring yourself back down so that you're solving a problem.
There you go. Good one. I'll just jump in. Let's see what I want to go with here. I want to go with make it about them. If you are blabbing, if you get up and you tell the story, how does it help them? I mean, we could all get up and tell a million stories where we're the hero. Come on. How does this story help them? So figure that out and then tell the story. All right, Tom, on that note, I think we got from John, we got from Chris, we got from Dr. Tachi. Now it's time for Tom to wrap us up. And of course, we'll see you all next Wednesday. But first, Tom's going to wrap us up. What do you got, Tom?
Yeah, so I wanted to share with you guys a real world example, right? An actual example of this in action of a brand using storytelling to build their audience by crafting stories rather than ads. So we've all heard of Volvo, right? The Swedish car company. Well, Volvo has a division called Volvo Penta, right? That focuses on building marine engines. And it's obviously a very niche market. But what Volvo Penta did was they produced a series called Finding Hidden Waves in the Arctic. And they partnered up with an Arctic surfer named Leah Brassi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Leah might have been. But anyway, they partnered with her and filmed a series where she went to find sort of undiscovered, untouched waves to surf in the Arctic off the coast of Norway. And it was beautifully shot. It's a really interesting story. And what it does is it embodies the values that Volvo Penta shares with their audience, right? That love for the spirit of adventure, of going to difficult to reach places, to do difficult to do things, right? That's what Volvo Penta is all about. That's what their engines help you do. And so they created this story that is not about marine engines. It's not about mechanics. It's not about how any of it works. It's about what it can allow you to do, the adventures that it makes possible through the engines that they make. And I think there's a really valuable lesson in that. And it is that they did two things, right? Instead of trying to sell you on their engines with a list of facts, they chose instead to tell you a story that they thought that you would relate to. And they put their audience first rather than trying to just give them advertisements for marine engines. They decided instead to give them the kind of content that they knew their audience would love because it embodies the values that they share with their audience. And so that's what I want to leave you guys with today. I would encourage you all to go check that out. It's called Finding Hidden Waves in the Arctic. You can watch it on YouTube. I would definitely encourage you to go check it out to see a real world example of this in action. I also talk about it in a little bit more detail and give you a little bit of how it all relates and how you can use it, lessons from it in your business. In my newsletter coming out later today, called Value First, which you can get on LinkedIn. A little selfless plug there, selfish plug there, I should say. So please, if you don't subscribe or we aren't connected on LinkedIn, find me there and subscribe to the newsletter. You'll get a chance to read a little bit more about it. But that's all I got. Put your audience first and tell stories that embody the values that you share with your audience. And I guarantee you'll grow the community around your brand. So thank you all for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of the conversation. We appreciate and love you guys. You guys are the reason why we show up every Wednesday, sometimes wearing boxing gloves, to do this show called Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. For Dom, I'm Tom. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. And we will see you next Wednesday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, right here on Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. Until then, have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. We love you. Bye-bye.